Undercover Boss tries to rent a car from his own company, could not believe when he sees how they target the tourists. AmericanDrive Rentals wasn't born in a boardroom. It was born in the back alley of a rundown garage in Phoenix, Arizona. No investors, no marketing team, just 5 secondhand cars that barely started, a beat-up rotary phone that rang twice a week, and the fire of one man's belief that he could change the way people were treated on the road. That man was Carlos Rivera, a 54-year-old Latin American entrepreneur with rough hands, a weathered face, and eyes that had seen both hunger and hope. He grew up washing windshields for tips on Arizona street corners. By 22, he was sleeping in a beat-up truck with a blanket over the steering wheel. But through all of it, Carlos carried one unshakable belief: travelers deserve to be welcomed, not ripped off. He remembered it all too clearly. The time he flew to a job interview in another state and got laughed out of a rental counter for not having a credit card. The time a tired foreign family was stranded in the Phoenix heat because they couldn't afford the mandatory insurance. And the time one kind clerk, just one, waived his deposit and whispered, "You look like someone who just needs a break." That one act of mercy planted the seed. Carlos swore that if he ever made it, he'd build a company that treated every traveler with fairness, compassion, and dignity. And somehow, through years of grinding night classes, flipping junk cars, and hustling parking lots, he did. AmericanDrive Rentals became one of the fastest-growing car rental chains in the U.S., known for its low prices, clean policies, and human-first culture. For Carlos, it wasn't just about making money. It was about rewriting the rules in an industry where tourists were often prey. But lately, something was off. It started as a murmur. Then it became a trickle. Emails, DMs, handwritten letters from upset customers. A grandmother from Germany charged $300 for mandatory roadside service she never requested. A young couple from Argentina forced to upgrade or lose their reservation. A veteran from Kansas left crying in the parking lot after being told his debit card wasn't trustworthy. Carlos read every word. His chest burned with shame. His eyes stayed open at night. "What have we become?" he whispered to himself at 3 a.m., sitting alone at his kitchen table. He could have sent a vice president, could have issued a corporate memo. But this wasn't a paperwork problem. This was personal. So quietly, Carlos packed a worn-out duffel bag. He slipped on a frayed flannel hoodie, rubbed ashes into his beard stubble, and pulled a faded baseball cap low over his tired eyes. No security, no press. Just one mission: see what had become of his dream with his own eyes. He booked a reservation using a fake name at his busiest branch, Miami International Airport, a location that processed over 500 travelers a day. He wasn't walking in as the boss. He was walking in as a tired, lower-middle-class man from out of state. A guy with an odd ID, a strange name, and a backpack full of old clothes. A man the system wouldn't see. What he'd discover inside that rental branch would shake him to his core. The Miami heat hit Carlos like a wall as he stepped off the shuttle. His flannel stuck to his back. The sun blazed against the glass windows of the AmericanDrive Rentals airport branch. A shiny poster outside read, "Friendly service, honest prices, the AmericanDrive way." He almost laughed. "Hey, I know so many of you come back to watch our stories, and it means the world. But the truth is, most of you watching right now still aren't subscribed. If you're one of them, please take a second and hit that subscribe button. It's completely free for you. And for me, it's the biggest support you could ever give. These stories take heart to tell. Let's keep telling them together." Inside, the office gleamed. Marble-patterned counters, polished tile floors, neon signs advertising, "Upgrade to luxury for less." But beneath the shine, something felt hollow. Behind the counter, a young man with gelled hair and mirrored sunglasses perched on his head leaned on the register, scrolling through his phone with one hand and tossing car keys to customers with the other. Carlos stepped forward, his voice low but polite. "Hey there, I have a reservation under James Gutierrez." The clerk didn't look up. He just tapped a few keys and scoffed. "Economy car's gone. You've been upgraded to a premium SUV." Carlos blinked. But I prepaid for a compact. The confirmation says $47 a day. The clerk shrugged. Yeah, well, the system auto-upgraded you. Now it's $139 a day, plus a $60 cross-region fee since your ID's from Arizona. He slapped a rental agreement onto the counter. Sign here or go somewhere else, man. I got people waiting. Carlos's heart sank. The words "go somewhere else" echoed in his chest like a gunshot. This was his company, his dream. Now he was being treated like a burden. He looked down at the paper. No smile, no explanation, no apology. Just then, a softer voice cut through the coldness. Sir, excuse me, may I help? From the far end of the counter, a young woman stepped forward. Her name badge read, Elena Santos, Service Representative, Trainee. She was no older than 27, with calm eyes, a neat ponytail, and a quiet strength in her tone. Would you mind letting me check your reservation, Mr. Gutierrez? Carlos nodded, cautious but hopeful. Elena scanned the paper, her brows drawing together. You were charged for 2 upgrades and a cross-region fee that doesn't apply here. Your compact was on site. It was never out of stock. Carlos stared at her, stunned. Are you sure? She looked up and gave him a small, sincere smile. Positive, and I'm going to fix this. For a moment, Carlos felt something rare in that building, respect. Elena turned back to the computer and began tapping away, canceling hidden charges, flagging unnecessary fees. But just as she was about to finalize the correction, a sharp voice thundered from the hallway. Elena, my office. Now the entire room flinched. A tall, heavy-set man stormed into view. Late 40s, sunburned face, slick hair, and a tie that didn't match his shirt. Brad, branch manager. He didn't even glance at the customers. His eyes were fixed on Elena, dark with fury. You don't touch my tickets without permission. Get in here. Elena froze, color draining from her face. Carlos stepped forward instinctively. It was just a mistake. She was trying to help. Brad raised a hand without even looking at him. Sir, stay out of this. She'll handle you in a moment. Then to Elena, through clenched teeth. Now, before I write you up again. She followed him quietly, but before disappearing into the hallway, she turned slightly, just enough for Carlos to see her eyes. There was fire in them, and fear. Carlos clenched his fists. He had seen this look before, in fast food kitchens, in cleaning jobs, in himself. It was the look of someone who still believed in doing the right thing, but was being crushed for it, and this was just the beginning. Carlos sat stiffly in the corner of the glossy lobby, pretending to scroll through his old flip phone. His eyes, though, never left the counter. The Miami air conditioning buzzed overhead, but tension prickled under his flannel hoodie. That's when a new customer stepped up to the desk, a middle-aged man with a sun-faded polo tucked neatly into khaki shorts. He had a calm, almost gentle energy. A Canadian passport peeked from his chest pocket. Hi there, he said with a warm smile. Richard LeBlanc. I have a reservation under that name. Should be for a compact. The same smirking clerk from earlier immediately perked up. Oh yeah, Mr. LeBlanc. He tapped a few keys, lips curling. Looks like your compact isn't available anymore. Good news, though. We're upgrading you to a Mustang convertible. Richard blinked, startled. Convertible? Oh, I don't really need all that. My wife just wanted something small. Easier to park, you know? His voice was soft, uncertain, kind. The clerk leaned in, lowering his tone like he was revealing a secret. I hear you, but I gotta tell you, Miami traffic? Rough. You really don't want to be stuck in something tiny when people are swerving left and right. Plus, this is a free upgrade. Richard smiled faintly, trying to be agreeable. All right, if it's free, then sure. But the clerk wasn't done. He slid a laminated pamphlet across the counter with bold red letters. Gold coverage, $39.99 per day. I'd highly recommend our gold insurance plan, sir. Covers dents, scratches, tires, underbody, glass, theft, pretty much everything. Without it, if anything happens, it's all on you. He leaned in even closer. And let's be honest, tourists are easy targets here. Richard's smile faltered. I already have insurance on my credit card, I think. Ah, that only covers collision, maybe. And they fight payouts hard. But if you take ours, no paperwork, no questions, just return the car and you're good. Peace of mind. Richard glanced over at his wife near the door. She was holding a sun hat, chatting quietly with another woman. He sighed. Well, I guess I'll take it. Smart choice. The clerk smiled like a hunter sealing a deal. He punched the keys aggressively and printed the agreement. As Richard walked away with his receipt in hand, his expression had changed. He looked less like a man on vacation and more like someone trying to remember what he just agreed to. Carlos's jaw clenched. This wasn't a simple upsell. It was manipulation. The man's kindness had been exploited, his confusion taken advantage of, his honesty used against him. Carlos's knuckles turned white around his bag strap. It was one thing to cheat him, but cheating the kind, the soft-spoken, the ones just looking to enjoy a trip with their wives, that was poison to everything he built. Then came the final twist. The clerk chuckled as Richard left and turned to his coworker. Canadians, man, always polite, always easy. Carlos's stomach dropped. He had heard enough. And the worst part? This was standard practice now. He wasn't just witnessing a fluke. He was watching a system, and he knew it was time to blow it up. Carlos walked slowly past the frosted glass office doors, head down, pretending to be lost. But his ears were sharply focused. From behind the half-closed door, the real heartbeat of the branch was exposed. Inside, Brad, slick-back hair, smug grin, mid-30s with a Rolex that practically screamed commission money, leaned back in his leather chair like a king on a throne. Two younger reps, still in their AmericanDrive polos, sat across from him, nodding like disciples. Look, Brad said, gesturing lazily with a metal pen. Tourists are free money. You don't have to lie. Just lead with fear. Mention Miami traffic, rental nightmares, towing scams. Their wallets open faster than their mouths. He tapped the pen twice against the desk. If they're from Canada or Germany, they'll cave every time. One of the guys chuckled. Even that polite guy earlier? The Mustang dude? Brad scoffed, grinning wide. Please. Gave me $89 a day for gold coverage. For a convertible he didn't even ask for. Said something about his wife wanting a compact. I told him there were none. He burst out laughing. There were 4 compacts out back. Laughter erupted. Carlos stood frozen in the hallway, rage creeping like fire through his chest. This wasn't just salesmanship, it was predation. They weren't upselling, they were targeting, manipulating kind-hearted people, exploiting trust, destroying everything he had fought to build from a rented storage shed and an old Buick with peeling seats. Then a new voice cut through the room, soft but shaking with quiet strength. We can't keep doing this. Everyone turned. It was Elena standing just inside the doorway, her trainee badge catching the overhead light. Eyes narrowed, voice trembling with a mix of fear and fury. Customers trust us. They believe the ads, the reviews, the mission statement on the wall. If we take that away, if we sell fear instead of service, she stepped in further, then we're no better than the scam shops we say we're better than. For a moment, silence. Then Brad slammed his palm against the desk. Hard. You're new, he growled. So let me explain how this works. He stood up slowly, stepping around the desk, voice low and threatening. This is a business, a real business, and real money doesn't come from favors. It comes from margins, insurance upsells, location fees, premium upgrades. That's how we hit quota. That's how we eat. He pointed toward the hallway. If you want to hand out charity, the Red Cross is down the street. And if you want tips on steaming oat milk, Starbucks is always hiring. Elena's eyes flickered like she'd just been slapped, but she didn't move. Carlos's hand curled into a fist. His heart pounded in his ears. But this wasn't the time. Not yet. He had seen enough to understand. The cancer wasn't spreading. It was rooted right here, in Brad. And soon, Carlos was going to cut it out. Carlos stood up from the faux leather lobby chair. His shoulders straightened, his jaw clenched tight. He walked back to the counter, deliberate, heavy steps, and stood like a storm just before it breaks. I'd like to speak to the manager, he said, voice cold but steady. Before he drops the truth, make sure you're subscribed. What happens next will leave you speechless. The young clerk flinched, then darted toward the office. Moments later, Brad swaggered out from the back, grinning like a man who'd already won the argument. "Problem, sir?" he asked with a smirk. Loud enough for the whole room to hear. Carlos didn't blink. "Yeah, here's the problem." He held up his wrinkled receipt, 3 times the agreed price, loaded with bogus charges and unnecessary add-ons. "I was charged triple, lied to about upgrades, bullied about insurance, and I sat right there," he pointed to the seat behind him, "and watched you pressure an innocent man into buying something he didn't want." Brad's smirk twitched. "Sir, you must be confused. Our policies are legal, transparent. You signed everything." He spread his arms theatrically, as if the conversation was beneath him. "Maybe next time you'll read the fine print, huh?" A few people in the lobby glanced up, but Carlos didn't raise his voice. Instead, he pulled a worn black leather card holder from his jeans pocket. He opened it slowly and revealed a glossy CEO badge with gold embossing. Carlos Rivera, founder and chief executive officer, AmericanDrive Rentals. The room went still. Brad's face drained of color. The smirk vanished. His lips parted like he wanted to speak, but all that came out was a whisper. "No, you're..." Carlos tucked the badge back into his pocket with silent finality. "Carlos Rivera," he said, "founder of this company, and today you showed me how far we've fallen." Every phone in the lobby was now filming. Gasps spread like ripples in a pond. The Canadian man, Richard, stood stunned in the corner, gripping his receipt like a broken promise. Carlos turned to Elena, whose eyes were wide but proud. "You stood up when no one else did. When it cost you, you honored the company I built and the people it's meant to serve." She blinked, then bit her lip, trying not to cry. Then Carlos turned to Brad, who was now pale and sweating. "And you," he said, voice low, "you're done." Brad's jaw clenched. This is how we hit numbers." Carlos stepped forward, inches from him now. "You hit people, Brad. You corner them. You scare them. That's not how I built this company, and that's not who we are." Silence. Only the buzz of fluorescent lights and the click of recording phones. Carlos took a long breath, then turned to the staff behind the counter. "Anyone who believes our job is to trick people can leave now. But if you believe we can do better, treat people like guests, not prey, stay." One by one, employees looked at each other. Some shuffled uncomfortably. One walked out without a word. But Elena stepped forward. Then the young clerk from earlier did too, nervously but with intent. Carlos smiled softly. The storm was beginning to pass, but the rebuild had just begun. Carlos stood in front of the stunned team in shaken lobby, his posture finally relaxed, but his eyes burning with quiet fire. "I started this company because one woman at a rental desk waived my deposit when I was broke." His voice cracked slightly, and for the first time, the staff saw more than a CEO. They saw a man. "She didn't know me. She had no reason to help, but that small kindness gave me a shot, a job interview, a chance to dig my way out." He looked directly at Elena, emotion thick in his voice. "I swore I'd pay it forward. Build something that meant something." A hush fell over the room. "AmericanDrive doesn't exist to milk people," Carlos said firmly. "It exists to move people, not just with cars, but with care, with dignity." He turned to the remaining staff, scanning their faces. "If anyone's been waiting for permission to be decent, you have it now." Then he turned back to the counter, where Elena stood, hands clasped, trying to hold herself together. "Elena," he said gently, "effective today, you're acting manager of this branch." Her eyes widened in disbelief. "Sir, what? You've got the heart we need. You stood up when no one else did. That's leadership." Tears welled in Elena's eyes. She covered her mouth, overwhelmed. "I won't let you down. I promise." Carlos stepped closer, lowering his voice so only she could hear. "I also heard you've been saving up for a '78 El Camino, the burgundy one from Tampa." Her eyes flew open, shocked. How did you know that?" Carlos smiled, pulling a folded title from his pocket. "It's yours now. We had it restored. Should be in the lot by tomorrow morning." Elena gasped. A hand flew to her chest. "Sir, I don't even know what to say." Carlos grinned. Just promise me you'll never forget why this company exists. She nodded, wiping her tears. Never. Around them, silence turned to soft claps, then louder. Customers, staff, even Richard the Canadian, all applauding a company finding its way back to itself. AmericanDrive was healing. A week later, Carlos returned, as himself. New signs lined the Miami branch. No hidden fees, no tricks, just the keys. Elena wore a manager badge. She smiled warmly as Richard, the Canadian man, returned his car. "Hope Miami treated you well, Mr. LeBlanc," she said. Richard chuckled. "It did. But this company? You folks made it better." "Thank you." Carlos stood in the corner and smiled. The storm had passed. The roots were intact. The heart of the company was beating again. Truth wins. Heart matters. Subscribe for more real stories.